Hi, everybody. See if I'm on here. Yes. Okay. Let's get started. Okay, we are at 1,454 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. This is really important when it comes to Jules Chan, the very connected. Um, Let me just read you some of. Okay, let me update. Let's take a step back. It's been so crazy behind the scenes because we're trying to figure out all of this because we've announced that we have taken over FitFam El Paso Limited Liability, right? The LLC. We've taken that over. Not that we've taken it over, I don't think that's the right word. It has been forfeited since March 5th of 2021. Okay, March 5th. I believe that's the right date. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But, it, you know, it is not in operation since March 5th, 2021. We have right now July of 2024. And so, you know, you can't say we've taken it over. It was available. We registered it. We paid for it. It belongs to us. And then we went to the county clerk in El Paso and we registered the assumed names. They're called doing business as DBAs, the Real Fit Fam El Paso and Fit Fam El Paso. So both of those we paid for. They were available. Um, when you have a for-profit business like Jules Chan and others, there's a lot of others behind this, okay? Um, but Jules Chan is the registered agent, and so this is not us picking on Jules Chan. He's just the registered agent for the very entity, the Real Fit Fam El Paso, that targeted our son's death with a defamatory and false story. And how do we know it's defamatory and false story? And not only did they target Richard, they targeted our family also. And I can't tell you, when you find out your son is dead, that and that you've given the government all of this evidence and you know that he was murdered on Fort Bliss, and then you have the media putting out defamatory and fake stories about your dead son, and trying to take over the death story of your son, not even honoring him, not even, just one lie after the next in there. Not, I mean, it's just, it's so horrible. It's so horrible and it's so violent. And then to learn that the very entity that Jules Chan is the registered agent for, and you have to remember he did not and still has not allowed us to respond to that defamatory story. He has told us that he took it down, and he has not posted this whole thing up on his unregistered, no limited liability, the Real Fit Fam El Paso, that has over 400,000 followers. I mean, his reach is huge. And to not post our story, to not post that, oh, by the way, the family of the murdered soldier that was just officially declared deceased, and the family is saying he has been murdered on Fort Bliss. That is what they're claiming. We're not going to post a story for them because and oh, by the way, they took over our LLC, and I don't even want to say took over. We were negligent. We were at best, at best. I don't think he was negligent. I think there needs to be an investigation. I think that it was very, very clear what they were doing. There's multiple articles that I spent putting up on Facebook today, and there was a lot of warning to this, and absolutely, even from Kathleen Bannon, which is Bob Moore's wife, who runs Border Zine over there at UTEP. She was very unhappy that they were like these citizen journalists that were incognito, that were staying anonymous and not being held to the same standards as her, and her husband is a discredited, disgraceful, and disgusting journalist, right? But Jules Chan, at least Bob Moore puts his name on it, right? At least Bob Moore puts his name on it, and you can call them out, and he can be checks and balances, saying what he wrote is defamatory, what he wrote is false. But who do you go and complain to at the Real Fit Fam El Paso when they put up stories like this? And then we've heard a lot of rumors. A lot of people were very, very unhappy because I'm saying they alleged extortion for taking down stories and things like that. So, we were led to confirm that Jules Chan, because I don't think anyone would believe it, that the likes of Jules Chan, because he's not just nobody. He's not just some influencer, right? Narrative influencer. That's not what he is. And because he was anonymous, he didn't let the people of El Paso know. And he came to fame. The Real Fit Fam El Paso came to fame because of the information that they were putting out during the Walmart mass shooting. And it would be very interesting to go through those articles and that information, because he was saying he had connections. He even admitted it. So this is a security breach. I've said over and over again, this is a security breach, because here he is being an influencer, a huge influencer for El Paso, and putting up defamatory, and let me tell you, he would never have taken that down unless we found out who he was. And now that we have FitFam El Paso LLC and the DBAs of the Real FitFam El Paso and FitFam El Paso, now you would think that he would want to negotiate with us, that he would want to come to us in good faith, that he would want to settle, right? But no, he went over to the criminal group that has been for years, for a long time, has been harassing us, threatening us, putting out false and defamatory statements, also impersonating our family, impersonating our son, even putting our son's head on a recently executed prisoner, right? The death row prisoner. They are so evil that they put Richard's head superimposed it on a picture of a recently deceased death row inmate in Texas. And that's absolutely, knowing who these people are, and then knowing who Jules Chan is, and then him siding with Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart, and we know that Amber Chase is over there. Well, the site has been taken down, but when it was up, that they were over there, and that Leilani Hart was over there, and of course Dallas Hart was over there, and Nick was over there, Nick Brown Bell Nufzinger, the PR, the PAO side guy. So this is, Corinne Adeline, Bob Moore. Bob Moore is over there. And, so this group, and part of it from the original response team. And you're thinking, why is he going over there? Why does he even know that that's over there? And when you check his associations and interactions, you absolutely understand why. That he absolutely had to deal with the Veteran Affairs IDES Pablo, which is James Courtney Hart, right? That is, he did. Okay, let me read this off. Lead Public Health and Safety Officer, Response Logistics at Garda World Federal Services. Lead Public Health and Safety Officer, Medical, Public Health Preparedness Liaison at the City of El Paso, Department of Public Health. Public Health Preparedness Liaison and Strategic National Stockpile Coordinator at the City of El Paso, Texas. Captain in the United States Army Reserves Medical Service Corps, Director of Communication for Public Safety at the University of Texas at Austin, Communications, Public Safety, and UTPD Public Information Officer at the University of Texas at Austin, UNESCO, ANASOC, ANESOC, Healthcare Operation Advisor at Inglety Corporation, SOCOM Healthcare Operations Advisor for the Afghanistan National Army Special Operations Command. That's what that ANASOC stands for. Afghanistan National Army Special Operations Command. Deputy Director, Supply Chain Management at U.S. Army. Director of Wounded Warrior Remote Care Clinic at U.S. Army. Medical Services, Operations, and Logistics Officer at U.S. Army. And, so he has deep roots in El Paso. He's been in El Paso for a long time. And what does this mean? That he has had to work with the IDES Pablo Veterans Affairs, which is, for at least for wounded warriors, right? For disability for our veterans. And that is James Courtney Hart. He's the El Paso IDES Pablo at the Fort Bliss Veteran Affairs. So then he's had to, of course, do the supplies logistics, which of course he would come across Nadal Baim at Western Frontier. It would seem so, at Western Frontier Trading, LLC, and others. And so that makes it, look, if there are reasons why he is going over to the criminal group that have harassed us and threatened us and, sent us vile and vulgar and sexual explicit messages. For years, they've bombarded us with this stuff to silence us, to intimidate us, to interfere with the case. That's why they impersonate you, because they can intercept information and people when they impersonate you. And so, they've done such criminality, and he's going over to them. And then to know that Bradford Bugalos and the G3 of the 32nd AdCom, of course, for the Walmart mass shooting, for the emergency intake center, for the health and welfare, all the this whole COVID thing, they would absolutely have to work together, and he would absolutely have to work with DES Thomas Kane, who says that Richard was a good meal for the coyotes, because there were so many security breaches, and he said more, but and that's all going to come out. That's all going to come out because you have Jaime Corona of the DHS that was over there with the Department of State being a liaison. Um, these, this security community is not that big. He would absolutely have to interact with CID agent Tavita Nusa and with CID agent. These are dirty agents, of course, and Tavita Nusa lost his badge. And if he's dealing with Tavita Nusa, then, and now he's over there with Leilani Hart, it is not far reaching for us that they have had a long term knowledge of each other. And so, absolutely they've had to interact with each other during the Walmart, during the intake center debacle, the whole COVID thing. They've all had to interact with each other. And they have, Nadal Baim, the FBI agent, and of course, Jules Chan would know the FBI, Jesus Nieto Jr., who interfered in our son's case. So, Nadal Baim being the one that said the FBI found Richard's remains in Mexico. And so this is very important because if they have this close criminal group, and that's where he went after he got exposed, then, what does he know about Richard's case? What does he know about Richard's case? So us assuming FitFem El Paso LLC and the DBAs that he wants now, he wants the assumed names. And, to us, there needs to be an investigation because that smells pretty bad, that maybe he didn't pay his taxes. Maybe he didn't, March of 2021, he has some backpedaling to do. And, it's a and he's not alone in that. Okay. He is not working that just with his brother, alone. Okay. We know that because of our investigation, and, it reveals more that at this time I'm not at liberty to tell everyone, but because there are, and everyone has to understand this, there are active and ongoing investigations, okay, on the state level and the federal level. And, you might think, oh, this is so slow, and, we're in 2024, and I agree, but our system can withhold can stand up to a lot of corruption. And there is a lot of corruption, and I hate for it to be a lot of corruption. I don't want it to be a lot of corruption because look how long it takes, and it shouldn't take this long, especially on the trillions of dollars that we spend on this. If not trillions, it's billions and trillions of dollars that we spend to have security, right? That we have law enforcement. But our system can stand up to this. It's been gummed up. It's absolutely been gummed up. But you You work to ungum it. And that's what we've done. And that is why we, just to let everyone know, to have proof, to have paperwork, right? Not for all of a sudden um, these individuals to hurry up and buy re-register El Paso FitFem El Paso LLC, and then do the assumed names real quick to get their paperwork, to get their business in order. Um, we wanted to have the receipts to let people know that they have been duped, and they have been taken advantage of by the Real Fit Fam El Paso and those behind it. And those behind it have a security history and HR, human resources, and they are absolutely trying to frame narratives. Now, what do I mean by frame narratives? They want to hypnotize you. They want you to think a certain way. And they wanted you to think a certain way about our son, Richard. And and it was so dishonoring. It was so terrible. It was so fake. If there was some reality to it, we would just have to live with it. But there's no reality to it. And we have the receipts, we have the proof, we have the evidence that Richard was a hero, that Richard was a distinguished honor graduate for basic training in AIT, that Richard was reporting criminal trafficking, that Richard was a victim of security breaches. The day that he was forcibly removed, we have testimony on that, multiple, and murdered, is, his security failed to show up. And why did they fail to show up? And during this time, when everybody saw the breach in security with President Trump there at Butler, Pennsylvania, whether you like him or not, there was a failure in security. And we don't want that, because that's just a chaotic life. And it is, this criminality is to allow for this criminality. We have people dying of fentanyl. We have children being groomed and being abused, sexually abused. We know all about that through Leilani Hart and James Hart, right? And with Dallas Hart. And with Etty. Was his name Etty Hart? No, he had a different last name. But Leilani's older son. There's all kinds of speculation and questions, and we've been getting all kinds of messages and information about Etty. And so, we know that people are getting hurt, and this cycle has to stop. We have to at least try to stop it as best we can. And we have to support the rule of law. And that's why what Bill Hicks is doing, and what Jules Chan then is doing with, the unregistered, the Real Fit Fam El Paso LLC. I don't think it's registered. I don't know. It used to be that he was running it under Fit Fam El Paso LLC. I don't know what he's doing now. But that he is supporting Bill Hicks, that he's supporting Bill Hicks right now, who is a usurper and doing so much damage to the district attorney's office. There's been over 30, and this is like 2 weeks old. There's been over 30 resignations in the district attorney's office. So who's prosecuting? Who is identifying the crime? Who is recording the crime? Who is prosecuting the crime? He's he's a train wreck. And, you know, we saw that at these speeches. I've been watching the speeches of the RNC just to get an overview of how people feel around the United States. And it's been very revealing. They are sick and tired of the crime culture and the sex culture and the absolute insanity. And I would say that repeatedly to, in my live streams and everything at the beginning of this investigation for Richard. It was insanity around us. I mean, just the craziest stuff and people shaking, and you knew they knew something. And I believe, and this is my opinion, but I believe that Jules Chan knows a lot about Richard, that he knows a lot about what happened to Richard, because he associates with the prime suspects in the murder of Richard, which is Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart. And he absolutely associates. This is my opinion now, but I really suspect, because of his positions, because of what he does there in El Paso, that he has to work closely with Tavita Nusa. And Tavita Nusa's gone. But at the time that Richard was forcibly removed and there were breaches in the security and Richard was murdered and there was a cover-up, that in that time period, that he absolutely had worked with Tavita Nusa and James Hart and Marlon Soto and Bradford Bugado and Eddie Nieto Jr. and his wife, Cynthia Hernandez Nieto, because she's in the security world, let me tell you. So, absolutely, and I know I'm coming on early today, and I should have announced that at the very beginning, because of certain things that need to be done today, but I wanted to get this out there, and I didn't want to come on at like 12 and 1 o'clock. But absolutely, this is so important that not only does Nadal Baim know about Richard, and that Bradford Bugado knows about Richard, and that Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa and Dallas Hart know about Richard, and Marlon Soto and Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr., and also Amber Lynn Chase, okay, and Mario Raskin Ortiz, the chief medical examiner. They know a lot. And the Francisco who was coming on, and I blocked him, and that's Jules Chan. And you know why I blocked him? Because he's coming on faking it again, impersonating somebody else. Why don't they come on? And why do I know that it's him? Because he's talking about the Real Fit Fam El Paso, that they were interviewing me at Cassidy Gate. How many people know that and remember that or whatever? I don't even remember that. And I know this case, very, very well. And I always come on, Rob and I are working this case every day. Why? So we don't forget. So we remember everything. We document everything. And then we submit all of those to the authorities every day. Every day we are working on remembering what happened to Richard, identifying the crime, documenting the crime, and submitting that to all the agencies. And it's shaken things up. And we have absolutely Rob notified as many law schools as possible to protect the students, these new vulnerable students, because with Bill Hicks and being the usurper and his office being in shambles, because you can't be a usurper and your office be legit and strong, right? There's no esprit de corps there. There's no esprit de corps when you're a usurper, right? And so Rob made sure that every law school in the United States that we could find, and we spent hours get assembling all of the email addresses, that everyone was warned. Okay, so we can have a clear conscience that these young students, these young law students, that Bill Hicks was trying to recruit to his usurper, uh, messed up office, did not take that job. And for their own safety. Because this is criminal. And Richard's case is a capital murder case. And it's premeditated. It's a code red. It's an internal. I mean, the level of this crime is huge. You don't want to be part of this if you are in a law school and you're coming into this mess as a very young attorney. You want some mentor time there. You want to get your feet wet, right? So that Bill Hicks was trying to recruit them, because we got information that said that he was doing it because there was over 30 resignations. So, and we want to protect also El Paso. And we've heard a lot of extortion stories. And, we're, it's like, okay, we need to absolutely let everyone know to be on guard in El Paso. Look at like Danae Katzen. This group, they are always deceptive. They just want to be deceptive. And Leilani Hart is a confirmed convicted criminal on being deceptive with mental health issues. So, and multiple people saying that, including a judge. So we are absolutely trying to be as honest with El Paso as possible. What is going on and who's behind the Real Fit Fam El Paso is unacceptable. The being anonymous is unacceptable. Being an influencer, and anytime someone says influencer to me, and a deceptive influencer at that, because they absolutely posted a deceptive, defaming story that was fake about our son's death. About our son's death. Now, how low can you get? And here he is, like a veteran, like he's a reservist. He's for wounded warriors. He's for, no, that's all deception. I'm sorry, but I don't buy it. I don't buy when you have a failed Walmart mass shooting case, when you have a failed emergency intakes, 85,000 missing children, when you have breaches in security all over Fort Bliss, and you are rubbing shoulders and want to continue someone that is usurping the district attorney's office. You're rubbing shoulders with the prime suspects in the murder, the capital murder, the premeditated capital murder in Richard's case, Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart. You are rubbing shoulders with the likes of Amber Chase, who is absolutely foul. That's who he's running to, instead of communicating, negotiating. I think that's a better word. Negotiating with us. in good faith. He should be negotiating with us in good faith, like an officer, like a gentleman, like someone that respects Gold Star families. Because whether they like it or not, that criminal group, we are a Gold Star family. Richard absolutely was murdered. There is no other option. We have the receipts. We have the receipts. And if there was any other option, we would let people know, because that would be to know that Richard was internally murdered, and the cover up is horrifying. We're not happy about that. But that's what the government just admitted to us. Okay? And we have the story, and they don't want to hear it because something is stinky. Richard was reporting trafficking, all kinds of criminal trafficking. And, the way that they've been acting, they're nervous, y'all. If you're innocent, why would you be so nervous? Why would you be so vile and vulgar? Why would you be, harassing and being a bully? Why would you do that? And for years, months after month, day after day after day. Why, so something is very stinky, and that's why there are ongoing and active investigations on the state level and the federal level on these matters. And that's really important for people to know. And that's why you might see more attacks on us. It's kind of like we totally understand what's surrounding Trump from the very beginning. We totally understand because we have experienced it ourselves. We totally can watch Glendon Oakley Jr.'s videos and understand what was happening because we went through that same thing. And we have Richard's videos and we watched his videos, and they are identical to the same spirit of being bullied and harassed and intimidated and threatened like in Glendon Oakley Jr.'s videos. So I think that's really, this story needs to get out, and I think it's going to get out. And the fact that we now can prove that Jules Chan is operating his very successful for-profit, The Real Fit Fam El Paso, that is up to no good. They're up to no good. Why should he get, why should he not have to follow rules like everybody else? And so we have the receipts for that. We own Fit Fam El Paso LLC, and we own the DBAs, the doing business as, the assumed names of the Real Fit Fam El Paso and Fit Fam El Paso. And if anything, he should negotiate with us and not harass us, and by no means go and join a criminal group with the prime suspects. And, you don't want to rub shoulders with Leilani Hart. It's contaminating. You don't want to rub shoulders with Dallas Hart. You don't want to rub shoulders, especially if you're in the business of media. You don't want to rub shoulders with Bob Moore, who's been discredited for being disgraceful and disgusting and putting together political hit jobs, putting their dogs out to a family that just was recently notified that their son was deceased. How evil. So, And there is no doubt in my mind, in my opinion, that he was working with Tavita Nusa, that he was working, that Jules Chan, in his other security job, my other job, my day job, right? That as a public health and safety officer, as the health preparedness liaison at the City of El Paso Department of Public Health, as a medical service corps at the United States Army Reserve, and all of this is, you know, um, working with CID, FBI, the Veterans Affairs, especially um, the IDS Pablo, which is the Veterans Benefits, right? And of course, with DES, Thomas Kane, of course, with Jaime Corona from DHS, DOS, who also provided information, and Nadal Baim and Bradford Bugado, he absolutely. So I believe that Jules Chan, this is very, very important what just has happened, um, that, you know, that he knows things, that he absolutely knows things. So thank you so much. And um, I will be back on tomorrow, God willing. Thank you. Sorry I came on so early, but it just couldn't be helped. And, doing this day in and day out, you have to, I just do it when I get a chance. Sometimes it gets really late. And sometimes, like today, woohoo, was a little bit earlier, but I have some other plans. So I wanted to get on and I wanted to tell you all that we're working very hard behind the scenes, that we really love all of you for sticking with us for so long, and that we love El Paso, and we love our son. And for people to do this to him is, unacceptable. And we are going to fight for justice for Richard. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I will see you tomorrow.